Welcome to everybody. I'm here with Stan Hustad, and I'm Jim Fernstall, the president of CBMC International. And we're delighted to invite you to this conversation today. Some interesting things are going on for Christian business leaders and marketplace leaders around the world right now in the United States. And we've been talking and thinking a little bit about the case that's coming before the United States Supreme Court, the Hobby Lobby versus the government. And for those of you that don't know about this, this is really a freedom of religion case here in the United States. It's very important because Hobby Lobby is a very large company with stores all over the United States in many of our 50 states, and they are being asked to provide healthcare services for their employees that they say violate their conscience. And the part that violates their conscience is the fact that the new healthcare laws in the United States are requiring companies to offer abortion services. And so they don't object to their employees having and using those services. They simply, by way of conscience, don't want to provide them. So that is before the Supreme Court. And it brings up this whole issue of freedom of religion. But Stan, it's really so much larger than freedom of religion, isn't it?
It is. Freedom of religion was, well, sure, you can go to church on Sunday and you can come out of church on Sunday. In fact, you could probably go down to the local park, and as long as you weren't a nuisance, you could even preach the gospel there or demonstrate in such a way, and no one is going to restrict that freedom of maybe expression or certainly participation. But this is a much deeper issue, for sure. Because it's not just that, it's how you think and what you believe. And so what we have to understand is that religious belief, or the freedom of conscience, the freedom to believe, is expressed in many, many ways. It's not just whether I go to church or don't go to church. It has much deeper implications. In this case, the Green family, it's a family business,
Yes, it is.
has simply said that they are very devout and committed in their faith, and they said, we cannot do this. Have they even threatened that they may even have to get rid of the business or get out of the business if they feel this goes against them?
Indeed, they have discussed that openly, that if they're forced to violate their conscience, they will be faced with a decision on whether or not to sell the company. So it's a big decision for them. And I think that others in the marketplace will be faced with similar decisions. Recently, we had an opportunity to be with Os Guinness,
Yes.
the great thinker and social commentator here in our city. And, he's recently written a book on this whole topic called The Global Public Square. And in it, he argues that the freedom of religion is really the first freedom.
Yes.
And he says that he calls it soul freedom, soul being the very essence of the human. That's right. The very essence of a person is being violated when they can't think and form these thoughts for themselves. What else distinguishes us in many ways from animals? We have this ability to think and to reason. And so he makes a very strong case that without this first freedom, as he calls it, all the other freedoms are suspect. Indeed, if you don't have freedom of thought, what is the point of having freedom of speech?
That's correct.
If you can only spew out and say things that others want you to say and not what you really believe and say, is that really free speech? Well, of course, we would argue no, it's not. So we really are talking about a very core, fundamental freedom that is at stake here in the United States. And we're really not saying that freedom of religion is under attack here in the United States. We're saying that it's being defined differently now. Instead of a person having that freedom of conscience wherever they are in their life, at home, at church, at work, at the movie theater, at the department store, wherever they are in their life, they have this freedom of conscience. And seems to be being challenged right now, so that if you have a certain belief, even if you own a company and it is your company and these are your employees and you're the boss, you still don't have the ability to make this fundamental conscience decision.
You're right. That is the primary freedom. The rest of them will probably eventually go away.
It anchors them, is what Os Guinness, the point he's making. It anchors them.
So you know what? Maybe we need to think about that as leaders in the marketplace. And I'm glad you're leading this discussion, Jim, is maybe part of our living out our faith is living in such a way that we are advocates for and living out freedom of conscience, freedom of faith, and freedom of belief.
So, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, soul freedom is the first freedom.
I think we need to talk more about that, but that's a good beginning.